It is time for the Boneyard podcast, the Lake Highlands Boneyard podcast, here with Coach Jordan. And now, this is nice. Got a little streak going, 57-14 over Nimitz. And you made a point, Coach Jordan, to say, hey, these guys are coming here to try to beat us. You can't feel sorry for whatever 0-6 record or whatever they had coming in. And I think as far as like holding yourself to a standard and coming out and setting a tone early, I feel like you have. I mean, I know you can nitpick, and you will, although you're very kind and affirming to your players, at least on this podcast. But I mean, that had to be you had to be pretty pleased with that first half overall.
Yeah, I did, and we talked the kids, really all week preparing for this, and we were moving in a new direction with the team. Had the big win against Berkner and wanted that to continue. We're looking at our record as we finish out this year and playoffs and seeding and all of those things, and so we kind of know what the roadmap is for us. And one of the things is to take care of Nimitz as they were coming in town, and Nimitz has a new coaching staff, young coaching staff, and I really do. And we mentioned it last week, but I think that he is going. I think eventually he's going to do great things at Nimitz. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him before the game, and I said, man, I really am. I'm a big fan, and I hope you turn it around here. I just need you to wait until next week. And so, but when we were talking to the kids, with the team we have and the kids we've got, and them coming in with an 0 for record, and they're looking to make a statement. We needed to have some shock and awe, and so that was kind of what we were talking about coming out of the locker room pregame. Is we wanted to get on them, we wanted to get on them fast, and we wanted to take their will to win away as soon as possible. And so I was proud of the kids. I mean, in order to do that, you've got to execute. You've got to execute at a high level, and I think we did that on both sides of the ball.
Almost seems like UFC. You were looking for them to tap out as quickly as possible. We did jump on them, both defensively, offensively, and we'll talk about some of the performances. Deontay Dean's been good for you all year, and hard runner, hard to bring down, stays up. He ran into some issues like very early in the season, ball security. 3 touchdowns in the first half, fueling that 43-0 halftime lead. When you go up 43-0, though, it does take away some of the things you're trying to do in the second half. That's okay. You'll take it. You sure you didn't want Wesley to fall down? It's like he tried to fall down, didn't he, on that interception return?
Man, what an unbelievable! And I hope that's in the cut-ups that we have on here. But that interception return by Wesley Scott was one of the coolest things. It was so fun to watch, and we've talked about Wesley, and he hasn't played football since he was a freshman. He's been he's killing it over in baseball. Comes back. And then, that may be that moment that he was looking for, right? I want to play football again so that I can do something like that under the lights on Friday night. And he did it, and it was beautiful. It was a great catch. It was an unbelievable run. He ended up having to break some tackles on his way in. That was the last, or that was right there at the end of the first half. And as we're coming in to the locker room, I think we had some baseball dads that were tailgating over there by the locker room, and they were hollering baseball as he was coming in. But what, that's fun for him. I texted him that night and just told him, late that night, just told him how proud I was of him and how happy we are that he's playing football.
That's some good insight. I like that. The baseball dads over there. Hoping he won't just start focusing on, but that was a fun part of that game, and there was a lot. Shamar continues after being slowed early in the season with some injury issues. The speed, and I guess when you try to look at the silver lining on some of those moments when you really could have used him, I mean, I'll look out there sometimes and go, wait, 13's fast too, or look at some of these other players and. Other players had to kind of step up, and now when you look at some of these other receivers, whether it be Tripp or Jack or whoever, it seemed like more guys were able to step up, and then you were able to integrate him, and it's been pretty seamless, I would say, especially here in the last week or couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, and we're proud of our receiving core. The guys that we have all have a pretty high skill level. 13, Nimitz Rolor, he is fast. Shamar, you talked about him. He's a little different. I mean, he's explosive. He changes direction well. And he's done it at a high level for us for a long time. But then you take Jack Schreiner, who has been, I think, our most productive receiver overall, as you look at it. I mean, when he has an opportunity, he's done great things, whether it's just catching the ball or run after the catch. We've got two younger players that are splitting time at our wide position with Leland and Trip Marshall, Leland, Germany, and Trip Marshall, and they've been very efficient in the passing game. And then there's Ian Mowdy, and Ian is very explosive. And we went in at halftime last night or Friday night. One of the things that we looked at is, okay, where have our touches been? Who's gotten the ball? And in a game like that, really we want everybody at the end of the night to come away with some meaningful snaps. Yeah. And so we came out with the mindset that we were going to get Ian the ball because we hadn't got it to him in the first half, and so we threw him a little hitch pass out on the side, and he goes 51 yards, and he almost scored on it, but it was again. He's explosive. He runs well. He got down, and he's strong. And if you've seen him, I mean, he's a weight room guy, and he's a strong kid. So we've got a lot of players out there that can do great things, and that's good for us. And it's allowed us this year to spread the ball around quite a bit.
I wish some of my high school coaches had that attitude. Let's get Mosley some more touches. I don't remember that ever being a part of the philosophy, but that was a nice way to start the second half, and then you were able to start looking at some of your reserves and get those folks in. But let's stick with that first half for a little bit. Who on defense, other than Wesley with the fun return, Carson Klein, I feel like he gets an interception almost every week. I don't know what your interception total is now. It'd have to be up in kind of the 8 to 10 range.
Yeah, don't quiz me. I didn't write that one down, Matt. I'm gonna have to go look it up.
Let's call it 10.
Okay.
Let's go the high side on that. But lots of interceptions, and that started really in the first game of the season. What about that quarterback for them was under duress pretty early. What did you think about your front in this game, and were they kind of getting that penetration you needed?
Yeah, no, our front's done such a great job for us, and we talk about him every week. John Williams at nose has been good and strong in the middle, and Christian Tate's getting healthier now, so he's going to be able to come back and add some veteran experience in the middle of that line as well. Jalen Caton, we've talked about him. He's long and fast, quick off the ball.
Yeah.
But the guy that really shows up on video is Andre Johnson, and Andre, man, he is having an incredible year. Friday night he had 8 tackles. He had 4 solos, and he had 2 tackles for loss. And he's one of those kids that's just, I mean, he's quick off the ball. He uses his hands well. He can separate from that offensive lineman and then move laterally down the line and make plays. And when it is a pass rushing situation, he's a tough matchup for any offensive tackle that we're going to see on our schedule. And so, number 4, Andre Johnson, is a guy that everybody needs to look for.
All right, 450. Get back to linebackers, 18 with Shep Jenkins he's someone who really seems to love contact, and you have some guys that like to finish plays and that kind of thing. And the linebackers, we've talked a lot about Shalom Peter this year. In fact, the guy is so consistent. I was kind of shocked to see him. Were y'all trying some different things with like holders or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all right, let's go back to Carson Klein.
Sorry to bring up the one negative. 57 to 14.
Yeah, appreciate that, Matt. Thank you. The podcast is taking a turn.
That's
now.
Right. That's right. What happened to you guys in the kicking game? Yeah.
So Carson Klein, who you mentioned, got the big interception, another one. right? If you did, I don't know if you noticed or not, but he's got a giant club on his hand. So Carson has broken his thumb, and he had to go in and he had to have it casted up, and then of course you can't just wear a cast in a game, so we have to pad it and then wrap it. So the thing looks like, I mean, it's giant. But somehow he was able to go up with one hand and a club and catch that interception. Carson Klein is the best holder I've ever had in all of my coaching career. I mean, he is really pretty. I mean, it's kind of uncanny how good he is at it. I don't know if you guys remember, it was last year or 2 years ago on Twitter. The thing kind of went viral a little bit, but and by the way, we don't allow this in our program. But in a game, in the middle of a game, he's holding. We're playing Pierce over at their place, Eagle Mustang, and Jose Negrete. Y'all know Jose. Well, the kids love Jose and his highlights and what he does. So Jose gets on the sideline, right across from where Carson is, and so Carson's taking the snap and the hold for a field goal, and he puts the ball down on the tee. You know, all this stuff happens, right? It's all. Yeah. He puts the ball on the tee, looks up at Jose Negrete, and points at him as the ball's being kicked. and I didn't know about it, obviously. And I'm checking Twitter the next day, and I'm thinking, oh, that. I said, wait a minute, wait, what? And sure enough, he was pointing at the camera. Anyway, so he hasn't done that again, but that's how good he is at it. I mean, the whole thing just kind of slows down for him. It can be a bad snap or whatever, and he gets it up there and spins it and tilts it just the right way. Well, now he's broken his hand, he can't do that. So we've been trying out different holders, and we had a short week to try to get those guys ready. So we went through 2 holders last night, and we'll continue to do that. You know, Shalom's got a big leg, and we need to make sure that we can get that thing on a tee and do it consistently, and we will. We just, we'll be much better this weekend.
I would not want to be the holder, and have Shalom looking down at me upset. I mean, the man will hit you, and so anyway, there'll be some.
So Shalom. I mean, he you would think that, right? He's kicked. This is his second year now kicking, and he's pretty good. Yeah. But he's the nicest guy on the field. And he'll give tips to the holder, and hey man, it's okay. He'll pat him on the back. He's just a nice guy that will run and smoke you in the in the box. So
okay, on the offensive side, we talked about some of the receivers. I mean, Tripp almost had a perfect outing from an accuracy standpoint. 8 for 9. I think I looked and you averaged over 17 yards an attempt, so ends up somewhere around 160 yards. You didn't have a chance, obviously, in the second half to throw it a bunch. But his decision-making and just where he's going with the ball just seems to grow with confidence each game.
So I think that's a big, that's a really good point that you make. The game was 43-0 at halftime. Mm-hmm. So in the second half, the game is totally different. We're not. If you look at the stats and total yardage and things of that nature, well, you take Andre Johnson, 8 tackles, 4 solos, 2 TFLs. That's in one half of football. So you extend that out through the course of a game, and it's it's kind of astronomical. Tripp was unbelievable, and so he's 8 for 9, and the one incompletion he threw was a busted route on our end. So. You really can't fault Tripp for that, because if we had done what we were supposed to do from a receiver standpoint, the receiver would have been open and it would have been a touchdown. So Tripp had an incredible game, and we're putting more and more on his plate each week, and it's really fun to watch him grow. He's seeing things differently, and we're gonna, he's got some challenges this week with the team that we've got coming in, but he needs to be able to make some calls at the line. He needs to be able to look and determine what the secondary is in, and then he will, he'll choose a play based off of that.
All right, and the O-line, obviously for the most part, he had time. Deontay found some room in that first half. What about that? What about that unit? Are you kind of liking how they're performing?
Yeah, each week they're getting better. We're And this we knew it was going to be a process this year, but each week we get a little bit better. We were the most physical group. On Friday night, they had a really good defensive tackle or defensive end, big kid. And he gave us some fits, but that's going to happen, from time to time. But all in all, across the board, I would say that our group control the line of scrimmage, and that's what we're looking to do. We need to get to the point where we can adjust on the run, and we're going to need to do some of those things this week, as people give us different looks. The offensive line is such a special group. You've got to, unlike defense, where in defense you've got gap integrity and you're adjusting or reacting to the play. Well, we have to execute our scheme based on what front you're in, and so when those things move post snap, you got blitzes and different things, and we've got to be able to stay on track. Recognize sometimes pre-snap we've got our offensive line is going to have to kill one play that we had. If we call one play, well, it may not work against this front. So as they give us a different front, we've got to kill it and be able to run a different play. And we're getting better at those things. The most, what I'm looking for is, can we control the line of scrimmage? Can we move the line of scrimmage when we snap the ball? And if we can do that with a back like Deontay, then we've got a chance to win football games.
Yeah, it's a good group, and it's kind of fun to watch them grow. I mean, I don't want to hit you over the head with the penalties in this game because the game was kind of out of reach, so we won't even bring that up. I won't say the total there.
Matt, you just did. You just did.
I didn't say how many though.
Oh, that's true.
I left the total out.
Yeah.
Just kind of a handful, let's call it. But anyway, we'll continue to address those.
It was and we are. I had to call timeout. It was getting to the point where and we have, again, we're young, and at some point that's not going to be an excuse anymore. I understand that, but we are still learning in some spots, and then there's some calls that are that happen to you, and they're kind of questionable, and and you hate that when at the end of the night when you've got however many penalties you've had, those questionable ones, you really wish that the officials would get those right, because it'd look better on paper.
Yeah.
But I had to call a timeout the other night just to kind of refocus us. We get we get a little overzealous and had a block in the back and had a holding penalty, and a lot of times, and I'll say this, when we design a play, let's just say it's supposed to go in B gap. And so my offensive tackle is blocking to position himself on a defensive player so that we open B gap. Mm-hmm. And then that back, whether it's the quarterback pulling the football or Deontay doing a little jump cut, and he gets out and he goes into C gap. Well, now that defender starts to work to the ball carrier, and we're not positioned for that. And instead of, at this point, instead of moving our feet like we need to, we're kind of pulling. And it's fixable. It's just, it's not something that happens overnight. So we're still working on that, and fortunate that we got to win in spite of the flags.
I recall that moment you were going to refocus everyone, because I think you were already up 30-something to nothing, and you were pretty. I mean, you usually kind of stay pretty calm, but you were working some folks over out there.
Well, it didn't feel like 30-0 or 40-0, whatever it was. Because again, and even talking to the kids, it's not about them; it's about us, and we've got to be better. We had to beat Nimitz, and I want to beat Nimitz, but you know what? I want to beat South Grand Prairie in the first round of the playoffs, and I want to beat Allen in the second round of the playoffs. And if we're going to do that, then we've got to cut out some of these things that some of these sloppy things that we're doing now.
All right, the Boneyard podcast continues, and you wait for this. You always enjoy this. Our unsung hero of the week. This has at times been Mangle's Drone. Was one of my favorites. Known him for years, or seen him around, and the athletic training staff. That was a really fun one too. And then sometimes it's players. People were texting me about Dodo last week. There's also a Mavs player, Dorian Finney-Smith, that goes by Dodo. But that was kind of fun. Who is our recipient this week?
Okay, Matt.
Tell them what they've won.
Yeah, this week on the Boneyard podcast, our unsung hero is Brandon Gonzalez.
Okay.
Brandon Gonzalez plays cornerback for us, and he got in quite a bit against Nimitz the other night. He got in the second half against Berkner. He is 5'6". He's 145 pounds. Brandon is, and like a lot of these kids that we talk about on here for Unsung Hero, he's a kid that has an unbelievable work ethic. He's very coachable, and kids love him, coaches love him. He's not selfish. He's a great teammate. He's all the things that you want in a player. And so, just phenomenal attitude. You will see Brandon if you go to any of the basketball games, and then sometimes, sub-varsity games, he'll be out there as a photographer. So he's a photographer for our yearbook. And I, as a matter of fact, I go, sometimes I'll when I get an opportunity, if I can leave practice and get to a volleyball game so that I can watch my daughter, Brandon's always there, and he's got his camera and he's down on the sideline. One of the neat things, Brandon did a great job in summer strength and conditioning, always being here on time and really consistent working out in the summer. And that's a hard thing for kids to do. They get a summer break, it's a vacation. And so kids want to go off and do things. Well, Brandon was working the night shift for his dad. His dad's got a restaurant in Irving. It's called Frito's Taco Shop in Irving. And so Brandon would go to Frito's taco shop, work for his dad, and he would close and clean things up. And anyway, he would work late at night in Irving and then get home. But he was always at summer workouts the next morning. And so when you see a kid that's got that type of work ethic as a young man, right, that he's going to do great things when he gets older. So Brandon Gonzalez, four-year football player here at Lake Highlands. Yeah. First year on varsity, but he stuck it out, and we love him, and we're glad he's a part of our team.
I love it. And you can sponsor, by the way, the Unsung Hero of the Week. But this week's sponsor, we're just going to give it to Frito's Taco Shop. I love it, especially since our producer is Frito over there, Frito Friedman. But that's pretty cool. And I'm always calling you with like the latest taqueria. I've discovered a new taqueria in Lake Highlands. Resident Taqueria continues to be one of my favorites, but I also kind of branch out and that kind of thing. So we may need to go over there together and try out
absolutely
Brandon's father's business there.
Well, we play in Irving this week, so maybe we can get a pregame taco.
That'd be great. And speaking of, so congratulations to Brandon. Now we come to the time of the week where we give a little historical background to the opponent. And Irving MacArthur. By the way, do I have MacArthur right? Was that game against Pierce that was like 55-49?
Yes.
My gosh, that kind of got my attention. And the quarterback ended up throwing for something crazy, like I think over 300 yards. So let's pay particular attention. Not that you weren't, but that got my attention. First meeting between the Wildcats and MacArthur, 1968. Just the 7th year of varsity football and the first season that Lake Highlands had made the move to Class 4A. Isn't that hard to believe? Lake Highlands used to be a 3A program when it first started out. And that was the highest classification, by the way, the UIL. And as Glenn Gant, who puts this together for us, our historical aspect, season started out with a tough 13-10 loss to Woodrow, but saw Lake Highlands get an even the record with a 28-0 smackdown of the Cardinals for the program's first Class 4A win under the original head coach, Bill Georges. And that's pretty cool. 68 team saw the program's first 1,000-yard rusher. Do you know who this is? Halfback Charles Cornell, 1,058 yards on only 10 games, and that would rank 13th in the state. And that was also the team. Dr. Bob Iden was on that team, somebody you've certainly crossed paths with over the years, and future All-American at Tech, and then with the Dolphins, Andre Tillman, a name that known to a lot of us, was also on that team. So pretty amazing to look back on all that. But that was the first. That's when Lake Highlands, MacArthur, and then of course MacArthur got into the district 2020. So there is some historical perspective. Thank you, Glenn Gant, for gathering all that. And then all the former Wildcats have a place on Facebook where they hang out. I try not to go in there. I recognize some of those guys, and they'll take shots at me, and I have to kind of jump back out of there. But that is a fun thing that they do. Now, Irving MacArthur. In fact, I'll look up right now. There's some things on the whiteboard that I won't share, but it involves MacArthur's. Frito, can we pan over there and look at some of that line, some of those X's and O's? They did put up a lot of points, and they come out on the losing end, 55-49. What makes the MacArthur offense so explosive?
So MacArthur has, they got a big right tackle, good looking kid, good player. Their right guard's pretty solid as well. But the things that make MacArthur go, they've got two players that are kind of elite, high school players. They've got a running back, number 1, and they've got a receiver, number 22. And they are both, I mean, man, they're something else. They run sideways as fast as they run forward. And the receiver, 22, used to be a running back. Now they've split him out there. They'll put him out wide. They'll put him in the slot. But they create really tough matchups for folks. A lot of gap schemes up front. So you'll see it's kind of old buck sweep type stuff where they'll hand the football to that back and he'll run, kind of sideways out of the backfield, and then he's got a guard that's going to kick and a tackle that's going to wrap up in there, and then he'll break it up the hash. And he's as good a back as we will see all year long. And then the receiver is as talented, speedy guy as anybody will see. So for us, we've got to control. We've got to be able to control the box. We've got to be able to turn that running back into the teeth of our defense. And then from a secondary perspective, we have to know where 22 is on the field and make sure that we've got good coverage on him all night. So, and they've been scoring, for the most part, they've been scoring points all year long. We're up for the challenge, but it's going to be a lot of work for us this week.
Well, and, as you were mentioning the playoffs and to play on the road and think about the playoffs and some of the neutral type places, I think it's good to get out there and kind of get in a different environment and see how the players respond. I'd like to remind people, subscribe any way you want, Spotify, Apple. We have a lot of different ways you can interact with us. And then also, if you can't get out there to Irving, I encourage you to, but if you can't, I really like that NFHS. I've subscribed to that, and that's kind of a neat deal. And you can match it up, as you told us, with that championship radio. And it's my old morning news colleague, Keith Whitmire, who has a son that's a junior, I believe on the JV team, doing a really nice job over there. And Keith loves this program, went here, and offers great insight, and then the play-by-play guy, great energy, and so it's a good crew. So if you can't be over there, that's a good way to kind of keep up and a good way to spend your evening, I might add. They're at the house, just call it up and watch those things. I've been known to be on the road, and kind of that's not always real safe. Okay, any closing thoughts? Anybody else you wanted to bring up, or did we hit pretty much everything?
Well, I think we hit it. We're proud of our kids, proud of where we are. We're looking forward to MacArthur. We've got homecoming the week after that. One of the odd things about this week is it's a 4-day week for us, and then the following week is a 4-day week. So it's really kind of typically we would put a bye in here so that we didn't have to deal with a 4-day weekend and kids and practice and all of those things. But with a 9-team district, we were unable to manipulate our schedule where we could place a bye. So some of the things that we're dealing with right now is that we've got our kids will be out of school on game day, and that's always a scary thing for coaches. So we were telling them today, no matter what all your friends are doing on Thursday night, you guys have a curfew, you need to be in bed, and so we'll have to get them up
bed
here.
Checks. Yeah, you really should.
We'll have to get them up here Friday before that game and travel. So we'd love to see you guys out for that. Or Champion Sports Radio, Philip Kern and Keith Whitmire do a great job there. And then the following Monday is Fair Day. So I've got to get the kids back up there early on Fair Day to get ready for that homecoming game against Richardson the following week. Just looking forward to that. We're going to recognize the 81 state championship team at that homecoming game, and so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've experienced HOCO, the kids call it now, and so they've got some of their things arranged for that weekend. There's some themes involved. I think some superheroes. I don't know if it's a whole school or whatever. I just go by. I've got a daughter that attends school here, sophomore. So this is fun. Want to remember to say Mike Black. I got to see Mike at a game here recently, at a JV game, and he's got kids on the way and already got some talented young junior high athletes in his family. And I met his younger son. He looks like he's going to be good too. So just keep coaching as long as Mike Black is involved in the program. And that's Eagle Cleanup, and that is our presenting sponsor. And then met our local dentist, Ted Hume. I didn't meet him, I've known him, but he came up the other night. And so there are packages available if you want to get involved with the Boneyard podcast. In fact, reach out to me on Twitter at Matt Mosley, or and that's Mosley, or on Facebook. And I'll even check the Facebook perhaps and see. But thank you. That was good. Love the insight, and another great win. And good luck on Friday night.
Very good. Thank you, Matt.
All right. That has been the Lake Highlands Boneyard podcast for Frito Nation Productions and Coach Lonnie Jordan. I'm Matt Mosley. Good night.